I'm going to apologize in advance for my voice. I've been sick for the last week with strep throat. Still getting over it a little bit this weekend. So please bear with it, or I guess if it's too much to bear, you don't have to watch this video. It's completely optional, as always. I saw this video on YouTube today, and I felt like I just needed to address it. Flat Earther sees space for the first time. I did download it because YouTube's new ad system is ridiculous. I absolutely hate ads and commercials. And so I just decided we're not going to deal with it for this video, but we're going to go through this and, Lord willing, just comment as this video goes. It's about 8 minutes, the video itself, and I'll pause it periodically to make comments as we watch. And yeah, you're already seeing that there is some kind of fisheye effect to the camera device they send up. I mean, just look at it. These lines here should be straight, but they are curved due to the lens effects, and that obviously then is artificial curvature right there. This, I guess, would be the thumbnail of the video itself. I'm not going to really show this video in context on YouTube, as I said, simply because of the ad situation. I'm moving away from the platform because of that and because of their position on censorship and free speech and other things. But you can look this up. The title of it is simply Flat Earther Sees Space for the First Time. All right, well, let's go ahead and just dive into this, and I'll pause it at relevant points and just make brief commentary here and there. All right.
Of the Earth with his own eyes. See, most of us think the planet looks like this. But the thing is, 10% of the world thinks the planet looks like this.
Okay. So 10%, those of us who are flat earthers, I didn't realize it was as many as 10%, but I am running into more and more flat earthers these days, and that's really encouraging. I know there are millions of them out there, and they've always been here for literally thousands of years. I have the history to back that up. But 10% of those of us who believe in flat Earth, we do not believe in this. Notice the wording that this guy just used. 10% believe the planet looks like this. That is there's a term for that logical fallacy right there. I don't know if it's framing your question or what have you, but no, flat earthers, by definition, we do not hold that the Earth is a planet at all. And this is the fallacy that is most used to attack us and our views. You've taken Earth and just replaced it with this ludicrous floating disk in what is still the heliocentric model, and we don't hold to that. We hold to a flat Earth realm, and we don't know how far this plane extends. It's not a coin floating in space with water flowing over the edge. To our knowledge, there may not be an edge. We don't know. The Bible says the face of the deep is frozen, and we don't know how far the face of that deep extends. But it's the basement of the universe, a flat plane, and there is this area over which the sun makes a transit and warms up a little circle of it. And that area is also, we believe, under a solid firmament structure, as the scriptures say. And no, the water is not flowing over an edge. There is no edge. It's more like islands in a pond, those islands being the continent, the pond being the world oceans. And then beyond the pond is the shore that is frozen, going outward in all directions. Presumably, we don't really know what's beyond the Antarctic ice wall. But flat earthers don't believe this. This is ridiculous.
And this is one of them. We're going to be seeing if he's right. Step 1, launch a balloon into space.
My name is Sebit, and I believe the Earth.
Now, I'm going to point out right off the bat the problem with the experiment that they're setting up here. So they have this young man who's a flat earther, and he's actually a little better educated than your Flat Earth Society level of flat earthers. Now, those of you who are serious biblical cosmologists know that the Flat Earth Society is basically misinformation designed to make us look foolish and discredit flat Earth thinking. This young man has obviously studied his stuff. He's got some substance. But what they're trying to do here, this balloon that they're sending up, I seriously doubt that it got beyond the Kármán line, which is the edge of space, 100 kilometers or about 60 odd miles up. And by the way, Neil deGrasse Tyson has said, and this is true, you can't see curvature at the Kármán line, the edge of space. You've got to be somewhere beyond that even to even see curvature. So you are not seeing curvature if you're in a hot air balloon. You are not seeing curvature if you're in an airplane, and you are not seeing curvature if you're in a spacecraft at the edge of space 100 kilometers up. And I seriously doubt that these yahoos on YouTube are getting their balloon up over 100 kilometers. And one reason we'll actually see that their balloon bursts. It doesn't make it, and the reason for that is they filled it completely or overfilled it at ground level. But as that balloon rises and the atmosphere thins out, external pressure diminishes, and so the gases inside the balloon expand. They didn't account for that. Their balloon burst when it hit a certain altitude because of that, which is why professionals underfill their balloons at ground level before letting them go up. But let's go ahead and watch this.
It's flat.
3, 2, 1. Step 2. Live stream what the camera sees into his vision using a VR headset.
Oh, whoa. I'm seeing clouds. That's awesome.
Step 3. Wait for the balloon to reach space and see what he says.
How did you first come about, like, flat Earth?
I've been high up. I've been on the airplane. You should be able to see the plane dip just to maintain travel across a globe Earth, and yet I haven't felt no such thing.
He actually makes some pretty good points. But before we could address them, the balloon started blowing away from us. And we have to stay directly under it to stay connected to the...
They have some great footage of our beautiful flat Earth realm in this video.
live stream, so we got in the car to start following it.
At the edge of the Earth is definitely an ice wall at Antarctica. I'm very skeptical behind the reasons that people aren't allowed to just go and visit Antarctica. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Now,
Just
okay.
in Antarctica, and we're gonna survive the next 50 hours here.
What about Mr. Beast?
What about Mr. Beast? There's a whole rabbit trail that I could get off on right here. So Mr. Beast has volunteered to be one of the first to get this neural net that Elon Musk is working on implanted into his head someday. Mr. Beast is rapidly becoming a super popular man of the people worldwide because of his charity work and other stuff. I don't really know a whole lot about him. I really do need to do a deep dive, but I know a lot about Elon Musk. I know that Elon Musk is from an Illuminati family. His mother was a witch. He married a witch who gave some of Elon's children these strange goddess names. I know that Elon Musk has some very interesting views. He's not what he appears to be. And around the time that there was talk of privatizing space exploration and development, Elon kind of came on the scene and became the figurehead for that. But really, if you dig into his past, he has all these ties to alphabet agencies and so forth. He's really just another establishment government frontman who has been carefully put into certain positions to destroy certain technologies and move technology in certain directions for the establishment. And then there's the whole thing around Halloween. I don't remember if that was this year or the previous year, where he wore his little custom armor suit, which was titled the Devil's Champion, with the Baphomet on the arm guards and on the chest piece. And then you just look at the sorts of things that Elon Musk is doing. Elon Musk is Tony Stark or Iron Man. And if you don't understand that the Marvel movies are propaganda, I've been slowly working my way through them and just writing down all the predictive programming in those movies, which is extensive. But you are meant to make that logical connection. In fact, Elon Musk shows up in an Iron Man movie and shakes hands with Tony Stark at one point. The establishment wants you to associate those guys. They want you to trust Elon Musk. One of Elon Musk's goals is this X platform that he's been working on for a while. Initially, X Yeah, well, we could talk about Elon's rapid rise to prominence, where he invested, I think it was about 16,000 in his own capital, and then literally every move he made just somehow seemed to net him millions upon millions of dollars. He was spent very little time at any of the companies that he rode to the top, not long enough to really make much of a difference there. So what he is really is a very connected um, politician, essentially. But X, which is Musk's baby, now he had some platform called X that became PayPal for a while, and then he kind of got out of that, and then went on to Tesla, SpaceX. But now he wants the reason he acquired Twitter was he wants that to be the core of X. He's always had this vision of X. What is X? X is the everything social media platform, similar to what we see in China, where everything from even up to and including doing your shopping, doing your voting, doing your internet browsing, all your communications will be routed, all your financial stuff will all be routed through this one platform. And of course, that one platform will be establishment controlled. So Elon Musk, um, he's a globalist character. He's number one on my list of antichrist candidates. Let me just put it that way. And then we have Mr. Beast. Well, it's right there in the name. The Bible says that there's going to be this beast entity that rises up and deceives a lot of people and is part of the unholy trinity in end times, bringing in this globalist, antichrist, one world beast kingdom. Well, Mr. Beast seems like a pretty solid guy right now, but he's been very vocal about being willing to get implanted with some of Elon's brain link, Neuralink type technology, which they've tried out in monkeys. It was disastrous, and now they're trying it in. They're doing human trials now, to my knowledge, and I do think they're going to roll out this technology. And incredibly short-sighted, incredibly stupid, and I don't know if basically there's this unholy trinity of technologies right now. There's AI, there's quantum computing, and there is interfaces, human computer interfaces connecting people to the digital realm. Now understand that AI is just clever software coding up to a point, but when you combine AI with quantum computing, you're going to start having some real interesting things crop up, because quantum computing opens gateways into other dimensions and is accessing intelligence and resources in those other dimensions. Really, what we're talking about here is demonic intelligence. That's what quantum computing is tying into. And when you combine AI with quantum computing very soon here, you're going to open up all manner of evil. You're slowly breaking down the boundaries between the spiritual realm and the physical realm, and you're allowing demonic entities to actually influence and control things in our physical reality. That's going to be really bad. And then you have this third unholy piece of that trifecta, which is human computer interfaces. And that's going to allow people to be enslaved and controlled by this technology. And I really think that that is what's going to happen with the so-called mark of the beast. Um, my theory or understanding of this is it's something that takes control of people to an extent that the Holy Spirit can no longer indwell them, and they can't be saved. They're damned by default if they take that mark of the beast. And I do believe there's ample evidence in the scriptures that it is something technological. So Mr. Beast, he seems like a good philanthropic guy, but I don't think he's a born again Christian. I don't think he has a lot of spiritual discernment, and he's offered to have this neural link implanted in him as the first, full. I think that's going to go very awry, and I think that that man is going, if that happens, if it plays out that way, he's going to be taken over by satanic powers. But they might sell it as a success, and you know, evil spiritual powers may then use him as an avatar to lead humanity astray. I think Mr. Beast, like Elon Musk, is a heavily establishment controlled person already. And understand, just to have an expedition in the Antarctic, you need to have signatures from literally dozens of. Just look into the legalese behind the Antarctic Treaty. You have to have dozens of different countries sign off on that stuff. You have to have panels evaluate whether, what the environmental impact of any expedition and stuff like that's going to be. So this stuff with Mr. Beast, I'm going to tell you one of two things. Either he's establishment controlled and they let him go to Antarctica in order to sort of try to debunk the growing flat earth movement, or he was never there in the first place. And that's a very real possibility as well, because a lot of these Antarctic cruises, so called, actually are not. They're just going to the Aleutians, an island chain in Alaska. And we could prove that because people in the comments on how great these Antarctic cruises are, sometimes they'll say things like, oh, watching the polar bears on the beach was so great. Well, guess what? There's no polar bears in Antarctica. I hate to break it to you. So you got duped. Somebody took you somewhere else. Anyway, that's my comment there about Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast and some team being in Antarctica is highly suspicious. It doesn't prove anything in my view of things. Let's continue. Sorry about that rabbit trail.
The balloon was getting higher and we were still driving. But I had some more questions to ask him. What about the idea of like falling off the edge of the Earth?
On a flat Earth,
I think we already talked about this already. There's no edge to fall off of. It's a plane, and we don't know how far that plane extends. To our knowledge, there is no edge. Now we come to a boundary point. As the scriptures say, God has set bounds for the seas. That would be the ice wall that encloses our world pond. But you ascend that ice wall, and then you're on a plateau, and we don't know how far that plateau extends. We do know, though, that eventually you'll hit the firmament structure where the dome comes down, and you can't go beyond that, to my knowledge. Although they don't really tell us a whole lot about the research and exploration that they're doing on those fringe boundaries of our Earth realm. Anyway,
as you go towards the edge, you wouldn't necessarily just like fall off. You'd be able to kind of just like turn the corner and be able to walk down the edge. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like anybody's going to be able to get that opportunity. I don't think that they're letting anybody off or get anywhere close to Antarctica.
see, it sounds like our flat earther friend here does have some incorrect misconceptions about flat Earth because, like I said, serious flat earthers don't hold to an edge, and we don't hold to this disk floating in space in the heliocentric model. Heliocentrism goes out the window with this, with the globe. So I do think that this fellow is mistaken on some things. Anyway, let's continue.
You got some people blocking out Antarctica.
That is so far outside of the realm of physics that I
So I'll agree with him on that.
can't even
That little animation that was just played was pretty ludicrous, and yeah, most of us don't believe that to begin with, anyway.
put it in my head.
We'll hear more from the professor later.
I don't know about you guys, but so far it's looking pretty flat.
The land around us certainly looked flat, but that made sense. Our camera, though, is at about the height that airplanes fly at, so it hadn't sensed much curvature.
So again, keep your eye on the tethers and stuff like that, and just watch how they bend and stuff. So they may not be using necessarily an intentional fisheye lens, but lenses themselves, just due to how they're designed, they do curve straight lines to some degree generally. And it is definitely happening in this video to begin with, albeit not, depending on the angle and stuff, not necessarily to an extreme degree like you sometimes see in these fisheye lenses.
Yeah.
So the camera's getting a little bit more level, but I feel like it's still a little flat. Like I don't see that much of a curve.
Yeah, and you're seeing, the apparent horizon rising to eye level.
See a slight curve though.
No, I agree with them. I kind
Like
of
honestly, it doesn't even feel like a slight. And it's like it could be possible that the domed Earth is a little bit higher than 100,000 feet, and so probably don't hit it today. Or for all that I could be what's popping the balloon.
Yo, that's interesting,
That would be
actually.
crazy.
The ice wall thing and so on, well, there are multiple national claims, including Argentina and Chile, slices of the South Pole. There is also a South Pole Treaty, and the U.S. station sits directly at the geographic South Pole.
So this fellow's argument at this point is entirely an appeal to authority. Um, and it's the basis of his. It's just based on the authorities' model of things and what they have chosen to tell us is the nature of the Earth. Looking at Antarctica, so you can kind of see the continent, the supposed continent there. Um, if you've ever looked at the land claims on that, it's absolutely ludicrous. I did a video on this elsewhere on my channel. You can dig around for it. It has something to do with flat Earth maps and stuff. If you ever look at it and how Antarctica, the continent, has been divided up into all these tiny little slivers or pie slices, it's ludicrous. It makes absolutely no sense. But when you realize that this is not a continent at the bottom of a globe, it's actually a ring surrounding our Earth, suddenly the land claims make a whole lot more sense. You're looking at these bands, and those bands are not arbitrary. Those bands are placed in areas that are fairly near the claimant countries. And there's a pretty large slice that is just not claimed. That's the area south of the Pacific Ocean because it's just so distant from everything that, why would anyone claim it? Trying to get there itself would cost a fortune. And it makes so much more sense on an AE as a muffle equidistant style projection. Anyway, let's continue on.
By the way, I mean, if you believe in a flat Earth, don't use your cell phone because your cell.
So, no, that's ridiculous. The technology of a cell phone works just fine, but it's mostly land based communications towers. Here in Tennessee, where it's very mountainous, we have a ton more communications towers, noticeably so. Noticeably, many, many more. They're often built up on the mountains, of course, because then that gives them line of sight and coverage down into the valley areas. But there's many more than there were in a relatively flat state where I lived, Maryland, where there just weren't as many. Because it was flat, you didn't have all these mountain barriers. The vast majority of communications are ground based. Now, there are some satellite communications as well, and satellites, yes, are real, but they are this attached to a high altitude balloon. And you can see what that looks like by just rewinding things back to that news story of the Chinese spy balloon that transited the entire continental US. A 200-foot diameter balloon carrying what looked like a satellite. That's what flat earthers say satellites are. They're all balloons. Orbit is not real. Orbit, as a concept in the heliocentric religious model, was created by science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke. And by the way, occultists have always had their tentacles in what I would call dark science, space exploration, and some of these other computing, some of these other cutting edge, high tech sciences. For example, Jack Parsons, the creator of JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California, which was a predecessor organization to NASA. He was a member of the OTO, a satanic organization. He, in his home, had his secret society members do rituals and stuff in his home. And yeah, NASA, controlled by Freemasons and other secret societies. The administrator of NASA is in Book and Snake. Dark science has deep ties to occultism, even going back to other cultures like the Nazis, for example, whose scientists we borrowed under Operation Paperclip, and they went into our pharmaceutical industry in the West, gave us all manner of great stuff like thalidomide, a drug that was created in the death camps by the Nazis. That's a whole other story. The Nazis were tied up in all these secret societies, like the Thule Society and the Vril Society, and they were deeply into the occult, and they brought that with them into our space program when those scientists were recruited after World War II. Anyway, let's continue on.
Depends on those global positioning systems.
Global positioning system, it's just a name. It doesn't prove that we're on a globe. And understand that GPS, so let's talk about this a little bit. I'm a self-taught game programmer. So in any 3D video game, any three-dimensional object that you see, whether it's a character or whatever, it consists of a model, that is the 3D structure of that object or character, and it consists of a texture, and these are sometimes called meshes and skins. So there's the model, the 3D structure of what you're seeing, and then there's the texture, and that is the color and pattern and so forth that gets wrapped onto the 3D model. Using computers, you can wrap any texture, and the texture is just a two-dimensional file. It's a two-dimensional image file. You can wrap any texture onto any shape or mesh using computers. So they can manipulate the coordinate system however they want. We could live on a pyramid, and they could use computers to reroute everything and make it seem like we live on any shape that you can imagine. Now, if you are still confused about how all that works, go get a map from, for example, the U.S. Bureau of Land Management. For example, my family would go on vacations out west and hike around in the deserts of Utah and other places. And my dad would always get maps from the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management. At the top of those maps, they will always have a magnetic declination. What is that? Well, the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, they're making these maps according to a globe model. But there's a problem. We don't live on a globe. So they need a conversion factor to make those globe-based maps actually functional with your compass. And that is what magnetic declination is. That magnetic declination that's on the top of those maps tells you that your compass heading in that map segment isn't going to be quite right. You're going to have to adjust it accordingly. That's the conversion factor that takes that globe-based map and makes it actually functional so that you, the end user, don't see the lie. If we were just making maps based on an AE projection, we wouldn't need magnetic declination conversions on those maps at all. North would be north. You'd just use your compass. Easy peasy. Anyway, let's carry on.
Global positioning, that is true.
And they are orbiting around the globe.
Yeah, it's got to go a tiny bit
I
higher.
feel like, I don't know, from this height or whatever, I don't want to kind of a curve you would see.
If there's a total lunar eclipse, the shadow of
So 40,000 feet, they're not going to see any kind of curvature at that height. So here we are, shadow of the Earth. So this is just another pour. So if the moon is actually a sphere, you could use an object with a straight line edge to cast a curved shadow on it, because that straight shadow will be being cast on a curved surface, so it will curve. So trying to use shadows on apparent shadows, because have they ever really adequately proven that, for example, it is the shadow of the Earth that we're seeing on the moon? Have they proven that to us? And then we have phenomena like the selenelian, where you see the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time, but you're having an eclipse. I believe that's a lunar form of lunar eclipse, if I remember correctly. So if the sun and the moon are in the sky at the same time, both visible, what's casting a shadow on the moon then in that case? Anyway, you can look up the specifics of a selenelian. It's been a while since I've dug into that, but it's a daytime lunar eclipse, if I remember correctly, where both the sun and moon are visible above the horizon, and that's problematic for a globe model. Let's carry on.
the Earth upon the moon is a round arc. So, the Earth is round, it's not a disk.
Sebit doesn't agree though. What about the sun and the moon?
Who knows? We haven't been to either. Could be that they're circling Earth on its plane.
And again, they just keep showing these ridiculous graphics that aren't really a good representation of what Bible believing flat earthers hold to. So you still have outer space here, which I don't think it exists in the way that they say that it does. And again, we've already talked about how the Earth is the basement of the universe. It's a flat realm. So this right here extends out, and we don't know how far. It's not a disk just hovering in a void.
How does the sun set, like, below the horizon?
Right?
So how does the sun set below the horizon? So in this, because of the size of the sun as depicted, it's ludicrous that it would in this particular little model they show. So you as the viewer are left thinking that flat Earth is dumb, but it's not like that at all. Think of it. Well, let's just use these little dots as a maybe better size representation for what the sun and moon are like, and understand that the sun and your eye cannot see an infinite distance, and light cannot travel an infinite distance. The light of the sun has to push through the atmosphere, and the atmosphere has weight. There's dust, there's smog, there's fog, there's all manner of, there's clouds, there's all manner of other stuff in between you and the sun. So think of it more like the sun is a lantern in the dark woods at midnight. Now think about that. There's going to be a circle around the sun, around that lantern in the dark woods at midnight that's very well illuminated. And then you can get out of that inner illuminated circle and you can still see the lantern for a little ways. But as you get farther and farther away, the darkness and the fog that is slowly going to, and the distance that is slowly going to make that lantern disappear. And it won't be very far that you've walked, and that lantern will be gone, and you won't be able to see it anymore. And the sun's the same way. The Earth realm is completely dark, and the sun is a lantern that's illuminating this region around it. And that region of illumination travels with the sun, but it's not big enough to illuminate the entire Earth realm at once. It's illuminating an area that is roughly like, whoops. Well, let's go back just a little bit so I can. It's illuminating an area that's roughly a little bit less than half of the Earth realm at any given time. So, like this area that I'm circling, for example. And that's a rough approximation, but if you look at Gleason's AE map down in the bottom left and bottom right corners, there are some illustrations that illustrate this pretty adequately. Let's carry on. So the sun and the moon, by the way, this does mean they never go below the Earth. They're always above the Earth. Now, them appearing to set on the horizon, yes, that is an optical effect. They're simply moving beyond the range of your vision. And the further they get away from you, they appear to be going down as they go.
On its plane,
How does the sun set, like, below the horizon?
right? Some people say it could be all about perspective. As the sun gets further and further away from where
exactly.
you are, there's a vanishing point, and at that vanishing point is where we no longer see the sun.
So this young man, he has studied some stuff.
Years, the calendar system are a beautiful example of demonstration that the Earth is round.
Now, so this professor, he hasn't done his homework at all. Bottom line is there's plenty of stuff that works perfectly well on a flat Earth and on a globe Earth. Understand that there have been numerous different, so a planisphere, for example. Are you familiar with a planisphere? It's a disk on a disk, and you can turn the top disk, and there's a little window cut in the top disk, and there's constellations of the map of the sky on the bottom disk, and so you choose based on the time of year, you rotate the top of the planisphere, and it shows you what constellations you're going to see in the sky for that given time of year. So a planisphere is using basically two flat disks to model or represent the sky. That works perfectly well. So you can model the sky. You can model it as a globe Earth underneath inside of a spherical globe or vault of heaven, if you want to call it that. You can model it as a flat realm. under a flat sky disk. That works adequately well also. And then, like a planetarium, for example, have you ever gone to a museum and seen a planetarium show? Well, you're sitting in a flat amphitheater underneath a dome, a projection, a dome onto which, constellations and so forth are projected, and that works adequately as well for modeling things. So just saying that seasons work, or that we've observed eclipses and stuff like that, that doesn't say anything whatsoever about the shape of the Earth. Completely unrelated.
And images of Earth, it's not just NASA. Recently, the Chandrayaan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Images of Earth, it's not just NASA. Well, firstly, any image that comes from NASA, you're not getting a raw image, ever. And there have been flat earthers who have proven this. There are literally tools that you can download that you can take any image, for example, this image file here, that's featured in this website or whatever. You could take that image, you could plug it into these tools, and it will pull up the metadata. So understand that an image file is so much more than just the picture that you see. There's metadata, which contains things like the size of the image, different qualities of the colors used in that image, the color palette, how many colors are used, things like that. There are there's data of timestamps of when the image was created. And then there's also timestamps of whenever the image was opened and modified in image altering software like Adobe Photoshop, for example. And this is really interesting. So this one flat earther proved by demonstration, he just started downloading tons of images from NASA websites and running them through software, and found that most of these images, the metadata proves that they've been opened and altered many, many times in Photoshop before being released to the public. And NASA freely admits that they're putting things like color filters over their images, and who knows what else they're messing with. They can change aspect ratios, they can Photoshop, you can do anything with it. Literally, Photoshop was used to give us the blue marble images of Earth. And if you haven't seen videos of how that's done, look it up online. There's a NASA guy who talks about how the blue marble images of Earth were all created using these data sets. And they just, layered these data sets on top of each other and tweaked it according to how it should look, supposedly, and to meet expectations and then publish that. There are no real images coming out of NASA. Um, well, no, there may be. So I have noticed that if you go to NASA's website, they have a lot of nature and Earth-side pictures and stuff too, and I think that's really there to lend legitimacy to the stuff that they're showing you from outer space, which is largely CGI and manipulated. But if you're looking to India as proof of outer space and that we've walked on the moon and all that nonsense, you just have not done your homework, man. Go look up the last so-called moon landing and the stuff that India was putting out on that. It was so obviously fake. It was the worst CGI I've ever seen. I could do better myself, and I'm not an artist by any stretch. Terrible, terrible, obvious fakery. Um, so this professor just hasn't done his homework on any of this stuff.
Beautiful images of the Earth. You could see it as a billiard.
Um, so right there, that's what you call your specular highlight, or the little shine that's been put on there to make it, you know, yeah, I'm just pulling that from that. Like I said, there's a little mini documentary. An interview was done with the guy who came up with these blue marble images. This is a fake. It's made from data sets and data, like weather data and ocean data and land mapping data, and all those data sets are overlaid on top of each other, and then it gets touched up, colorized to be um, believable. And then this is the little specular highlight. That's what he called it, that he put in there to make it look 3D-ish, cool. It's real. It's not real. That's fake.
Ball hanging in the blackness of space.
So I'm still a little bit skeptical, but there are some other cameras up there that got some footage for us. So I'm looking forward to checking those out to see what kind of footage we got.
But the balloon just burst, so we have to go get.
Yeah, so I talked about this already. The balloon burst because they overfilled it at ground level. Um, that gas inside is going to expand as the atmospheric pressure outside decreases as the balloon goes up in altitude. This is why professionals underfill high altitude balloons before sending them up. Or they're set up in such a way that there's an overflow so that the internal pressure can release itself. But these guys did not do that. So I'm not very surprised. But you know what? I'm guessing they got nowhere near the Kármán line 100 kilometers up.
Yeah, that's right. So while we were listening to the scientists, the live stream cut out, and the balloon apparently popped a little bit later. So now it's falling towards the ground, and we have to go get it so we can see the footage after the stream cut out.
By the way, just as you're seeing images and footage of these guys on the ground, you can see curvature that's been introduced by their camera lenses at ground level in the footage they're taking. So just look for that stuff. It's pretty funny.
At the very top.
But also, how do we know we're not just like baiting and switching? Like, how do we know that it's the same weather balloon that we're gonna be going to?
Seba was starting to get a bit suspicious.
You're only gonna buy this if you actually see the camera come out of the air, so you know it's the same camera, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the problem is, it takes about an hour to get down to the ground, and the camera was 20 miles in the air. That's 20 miles per hour falling down, so it is not going to be easy to actually be there when it lands, let alone actually try and catch it out of the air. We're gonna try.
Well, there it is. So look out.
Also, this video wasn't cheap, so while we're looking for the balloon, let me tell you about AirUp, the sponsor of this video.
An Air Up water bottle works by filling it with water and then taking one of these scent pods, this one's watermelon, and sticking it on, right?
We should see it.
I just skipped that. I hate commercials. Sorry.
It makes your water seriously taste like it's got watermelon in it, despite the fact that it's water. It doesn't add any extra calories or anything. It's purely just the scent that's making you think that you're drinking flavored water, when in actuality it's really just water.
We haven't even opened cherry yet.
This one's gonna be the best one.
Yeah, that's kind of good.
What do you think?
Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah, it all like turns into cherry.
Takes
all
me
of a
back.
sudden.
Yeah, it's wild, right? Use my code
Oh, boy.
for 15% off the entire store. Link in description. You guys see it? Still see it?
Like beyond the hill.
So we have to kind of run over there, right? So that's what we did. But the journey was a lot longer than we expected. It's petrified wood. Apparently it's from the dinosaurs' age. This used to be wood. We're literally finding fossils out here, but we have to find the balloon.
Yo, be careful. There's like cactus and ants down
It looks
here.
like at the horizon. It looks like it just like drops off.
No, for real,
like imagine what the wall looks like.
Man, you're having me convinced right now. Let's find this footage though, for real.
I mean, honestly, this is kind of convincing that the Earth is flat. Like,
Yeah,
look around here. I mean,
it is.
There's nothing.
Crossing another.
So Kansas and Florida, scientists actually found, they came up with a formula for flatness relative to a pancake, and they found out that Kansas, flatter than a pancake. Okay, all right, not too surprising. Then they found, okay, Florida, also flatter than a pancake. Okay, all right, interesting. Then they found the entire continental U.S. taken as one unit together, flatter than a pancake. Oh boy. Now we're having some problems. How if we live on a globe, can a region as big as the United States be flatter than a pancake? Well, if you aren't familiar with his work already, there's a channel called J Tolan Tolan Media 1, and this guy does high altitude video footage with an infrared camera, and that allows him to see much further than you can with the human eye, which is going to be the range of vision is going to be blocked by smog, dust, clouds, and so forth. Infrared punches through all that stuff, and he has some extreme long distance footage that proves we live in a flat realm. You can literally see it with your own eyes now. All right, let's continue.
I mean, I think I just gotta go, right?
The hike to the balloon was definitely treacherous. I think that's a word.
Yep.
Treacherous. Looking back at the maps, you can see how long we walked. It was miles, and this was taking hours. Cows are just staring at us. They don't know that we're about to prove the curvature.
Oh, that's wild.
But maybe I didn't mind. Hanging out with Seb, it was fun. He's a nice guy.
It's all still intact. Alrighty. So this is definitely.
By the way, whenever satellites crash, there is a balloon that comes down with it. I assembled a small library of footage on this for myself. And what's interesting is whenever news outlets cover stories of satellites crashing, they are very careful to move their cameras in creative ways to avoid showing the balloon canopy, which is usually draped over a tree or over the ground nearby. But you can always see the payload, and it has a tether on it that trails off and goes off, somewhere. And sometimes, if they're doing a poor job, they will actually capture the canopy of the balloon that's holding those satellites up. And I've got a bunch of videos of this stuff on my computer that I've collected over the years, just scumming the internet for satellite crashes. Satellites are balloons, and that's easily provable. Um, anyway, let's continue. This footage here just reminded me of that, because essentially what they have is a satellite, a little mini satellite that they've just sent up, an apparatus, in this case a camera, on a high altitude balloon. That's what satellites are. The ones that the scientific establishment are sending up, they're just a little bit more sophisticated than the stuff that these guys are doing.
The camera we started with, right? We may not have seen it come down, but this is it, and there's no way that anyone would have planted it this far out in a field. It took like an hour and a half to get to. We're gonna trust this footage, right?
For sure, yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to checking out the footage.
Yeah,
for sure.
we'll see what it looks like.
All right, so here we are. Let's prove some curvature.
Oh, that's landing.
Like, that seems fairly
Still
flat.
seems
Like,
fairly flat. Yep.
a little bit of a curve.
I see a little bit of curvature, it's all in his mind.
Look at that. Look at that. What do you see?
I see a curve personally.
You see a curve?
I see a slight
If
curve.
I'm being honest, thinking about the sun and the moon's orbit is kind of the toughest things to think about. Vanishing points and points.
See, they never really, maybe they do later on in the video. I don't think they ever tell us how high they actually got with this balloon, but like I said, if they didn't get above the Kármán line, it's a moot point. Can't see curvature from the edge of space, which is the Kármán line, 60 odd miles up or 100 kilometers. If these guys didn't even get to that point, they're not seeing curvature. Any perceived curvature is probably an artifact due to their camera lens, even though it's not a fisheye.
To view in perspective, it does look like it's pretty high above, and that perspective doesn't look like if it were to just go in a straight line that it could just disappear. Really awesome experience, and super down to go ahead and take that into consideration and everything. For sure.
See, they did not change our flat earther bros mind at all. And actually this video has been not at all convincing that the earth is a globe. Sorry. Fail, buddy. I mean, points for effort, but and it's been fun, but fail.
Of course.
Pleasure doing business with you. But Sebit wasn't the only flat earther we showed this footage to. We got emails back from tons of flat earthers that watched it and tried to...
Yeah, see, DITRH got on here, and
Some may think you see curvature,
Eric Dubay, I think.
but I can assure you that you don't.
They
Yep.
all have different opinions.
Agree.
As for Sebit, though, we went to Chipotle, and then we drove to the airport.
It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
For sure, of course, no problem at all.
All right, see ya.
Wow. And gave him $1,000 for being in the video. And then we boarded our planes. And the front of the plane didn't have to point downward.
The force of gravity always points down toward the center of the Earth. And therefore, you're not going to need to go up or down or up to follow the curvature. You're not going to feel anything different.
So, I think he completely missed the argument there. Let's go back a little bit.
Follow the curvature toward the center.
Alright, so the problem here is that if we're flying in an airplane over a globe, the pilot would have to nose down, because if he's just holding this plane level, it's going to go sailing off in a straight line out into the wild blue yonder, or the wild black yonder in this case, I guess, in the helio nonsensical model. So the pilot would have to nose down to stay hugging the curve. Pilots don't have to do this. And that pretty much just kills the idea that we live on a globe right there. Again, and you can tell this is another one of those fake blue marble images. You got your specular highlight there. Actually, this may literally be one of Simmons' blue marble images. I think it is. I remember one where the specular highlight was right here on the west coast of the USA. Anyway, though, my point being, this UCLA professor just plain out doesn't get it. If you level a plane off, think about that terminology, level a plane out. You can just take your hands off the controls, and as long as the weather isn't changing, um, your pitch or anything like that, the plane stays level. It'll just keep flying level. That only works on a flat Earth realm. I'm sorry, it doesn't work on a globe that way. Uh, and gravity is not this magical force that's going to pull the nose of your plane down to keep you going around in a circle, while somehow letting the tail go up and letting the body stay the same. It doesn't work that way. Um, so yes, I would say that the reality that pilots don't have to nose down every few minutes to stay hugging the curve of the Earth, that is proof positive that we don't live on a globe. We don't. There is no curvature. You can't find it no matter how hard you look for it. And this UCLA professor, he just hasn't done his homework. He's ignorant. And teaching people who are going to be likewise ignorant. I don't think I'm going to let my kids go to college. I mean, if they want to save up for it and spend all that money themselves, that's one thing. But I won't be paying to send them there, that's for sure. All right, anyway, I think we're almost done here, but let's carry on for the last little bit.
Of the Earth. And therefore, you're not going to need to go up or down or up to follow the curvature. You're not going to feel anything different.
So what is he saying then? Is he saying that magic gravity is going to pull the nose of the plane down and keep you flying level while letting the tail of the plane go up and, not moving the center or balancing point of the plane? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what he's saying. He's just there as an authority figure to give credence to the globe and heliocentric model, but he really can't substantiate anything that he's saying. It is, by the way, called an error plane. And that's it, folks. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you found this to be interesting, and feel free to share this if you have people who are watching this and actually think that this somehow proves that we live on a globe. Nothing of the sort. All right, well, have a good weekend. Bye-bye. Bye.